Hello, deplorables, maggots, ANCAPs, and libertarians alike. I am so happy you're here. Thank you for joining. I apologize for. I did it again. I did it again. Okay, I fixed it. Sorry. I always have the YouTube going in the background and then I hear myself echoing. So, my bad there, folks. How is everyone this evening? Twitter is an amazing place right now, an absolutely amazing place. I know I'm going to get a strike on YouTube tonight. There's I already got a COVID-19 warning on the YouTube right there. If you check at the bottom, it already says, get the latest information from the CDC, because, they're the most trustworthy people about the COVID stuff, the CDC. Yeah, well, we're going to get into all that tonight because Joe Rogan and RFK have set the Twitterverse on fire. And I'm not here to talk about, if the whole vaccine thing, and not just the COVID vaccine, all the vaccines. I'm not even here to weigh in on necessarily my stance on that. It's not very hard to figure out my stance on that. But I am here to talk about things they lied to us about. And that's the sort of the title of tonight's episode, The Lies They Told Us. Actually, no, that isn't. I changed the title. That's going to be another episode because this was thrust upon me. And I did not plan on doing this episode this early. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do the Lies They Told Us episode the way I planned, because I don't think I could fit it into 2 hours because there's so many and there's so much detail to go into about how and why and who lied to us and when, because there's a whole timeline of lies that they told us. And that's not exactly what I'm going to do tonight, but I am going to get into some of them. But let's see here. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you already know that, well, I'm a member. I'm a sound and communications guy, and I rejoined the union. I used to be doing residential audio video, really high-end stuff for tech people that are really high up in the tech world. And what I got fired for, well, refusing to wear a mask, I can't seem to get hired in that world anymore. It's interesting. I can't even get a call back. Can't get an interview. I mean, it's fine. I don't really want to be in that world anymore. They hate me. The people that I work for hate me. They hate me and my ideology. People that are healthy and trust their immune systems and don't want to inject themselves with things that aren't really that tested that well. Those types of people. Anyway, it feels like I'm blacklisted because I can't even get a call back. And I've been in this industry 18 years. I've worn every hat. My resume is pretty darn impressive. I got good references. Some of them aren't references anymore, but it doesn't make sense. It's strange that I can't even get a call back. So I rejoined the union. There's no jobs in the union either. Joe Biden's lying. The jobs market's not as hot as you think. People aren't building conference rooms and all hands meetings rooms and theaters to have conferences in for, large auditoriums, that kind of thing. People, they're not building those right now, at least not in the Bay Area so much. Anyway, if you guys are aware, you saw on Twitter, I'm trying to raise funds to at least support this show until I secure work. I'm 21 on the list at the union hall, paying my union dues. I make over $110,000 a year. There's no work right now, Joe Biden. You are a liar. Anyway, if you guys enjoy the show and you want to contribute, this is the GoFundMe up here. Or I'm sorry. Don't support GoFundMe. They're a bunch of jerks for what they did to the Canadian truckers. This is the Give, Send, Go. I just threw it up on screen there. If you enjoy the show and you want to contribute. So, yep, there it is right there. All right. We have a ton to get into because you've been following the Joe Rogan stuff. Joe Rogan, RFK. I hope you guys listened to that podcast. 3 hours, and he gets into it. He gets into a lot of detail, and we'll play some clips from it. But Dr. Peter Hotez, one of the main purveyors one of the main purveyors of disinformation during this whole pandemic, well, he's he's come under fire. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast before RFK, a long time before, and I watched that one, and it was frustrating because he had a bunch of non-answers, and it was Joe put him on the hot seat a little bit. So let's sort of review the the Twitter fight, because there's a lot of back and forth with it. Here's a Zero Hedge article that I got pulled up here that sort of gets into it. Alrighty. So if you guys saw, Joe Rogan challenged Dr. Peter Hotez to a debate, and they just started getting back and forth on it. And well, here's one of the clips from Joe Rogan and Dr. Peter Hotez.
Now, I know that Robert Kennedy Jr. is he's a big one. He's a big one, and he seems like a very intelligent guy. How could he not be aware of the science behind this, and what is he getting wrong?
What he's getting wrong is just about everything. He's formed an organization called Children's Health Defense, and he had a press conference about it. I think it was September, October of last year. It is probably one of the best organized anti-vaccine groups out there. Now, he's doing other things other than vaccines. He's doing a lot of things about environmental health and things like that. I don't know any part of that business. I've only followed what he does with vaccines, but it's all nonsense.
Why is he?
Okay, so what did you say right there that's factual? So you said he's part of a big anti-vaccine group, and all he's saying is nonsense. That's all he said right there. So see if he says anything factual.
Doing this about vaccines?
I don't know. What's his motive? I mean, you have to ask him what's his motivation.
Would he be a guy that you would want to have a debate with or have a discussion with?
But again, I mean, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of a debate, because it's like debating. I don't know. It's like debating a Holocaust denier whether the Holocaust exists. I mean, not that this rises.
I understand what you're saying, but
why wouldn't you debate a Holocaust denier then? If it's so easy to refute what somebody's saying, then debate them. It should be real quick work. That's not a good argument to me, that his position is so ridiculous that I can't debate him because his position is so ridiculous. That doesn't make sense. Oh, the debate's going to be too easy, so I don't want to do it. I'm not buying that.
I want to bring this up. If you're complaining there's 19 books ahead of yours that are anti-vaccine books, you've already lost the battle. Like, it's time to regroup, and maybe regrouping would be confronting someone with actual scientific information. I mean, you are a real doctor. You're a guy who actually studies this, and you're a man who understands the science. You're a legitimate academic. You could actually put a dent in this with a real conversation.
Potentially.
Yeah. I mean, what would he be able to say? Like, what is his take on it?
Well, remember, he's an attorney, and he's very clever, right? And he presumably knows how to do arguments in court. And what am I? I'm a scientist.
Right. But do you think that he wants to deceive people, or do you think that maybe he's just incorrect in his accumulation of data?
Yeah, I can't say what his motivation is, but his information is highly misleading.
Okay, he also didn't say his information was incorrect there. He said his information was misleading. Okay, how? Like, they always just dance around the perimeter of the actual question or issue, and they never get into it. And if you hear Robert F. Kennedy talk, he gets right to the meat of the issue immediately, every single time, and just boom, 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 boom. We'll listen to RFK talk, but this sounds like a bunch of garbage to me. Here's another one. Here's Kanekoa the Great tweeted this video out. Joe Rogan grills Peter Hotez for Oh yeah, this was a funny clip, because this was a big point of contention for me when my primary care physician told me that I should get the vaccine. I wasn't going to get it any way, shape, or form. And the only reason I was even talking to my primary care physician is because I busted my knee on a run, and I ended up needing knee surgery, but you know how our healthcare system works. You have to go to your primary care physician, who then has to refer you to a specialist, that then has to refer you to a surgeon, and then you get the surgery. So I had to go talk to my primary care physician. I get through all the crap, and at the end, I just asked him. I was like, I haven't taken the COVID vaccine. He was like, I know. He like says it all sideways like that too. And I was like, okay, well, it's like a year later, we already know, who's susceptible to the thing. Would you recommend that I get it? And he like he's frustrated that I'm even asking him. And he says yes. And he highly recommends it to me. And this is my doctor. He's probably in his 50s, heavy set guy, clearly doesn't eat well or exercise. And it frustrated me. It greatly frustrated me. He's telling me, a year after vaccines have been available, I'm clearly still alive. I don't have any long COVID. And he's still telling me that I should get it. And at this point, we know that it doesn't stop transmission. I think we could say that on YouTube. I don't know. They'll probably give me a strike for that. But he still recommended it. And I just didn't get it. And I haven't been back to that doctor since. So anyway. All right. Let's listen to Dr. Peter Hotez. It's sort of the same issue. Yeah.
Do you take care of your immune system in other ways? Do you take probiotics? Are you cautious about your diet?
I'm not as cautious about my diet as I should be. I'm a junk foodaholic, actually.
Well, that seems like a terrible.
I'm a junk foodaholic. Okay, that's very frustrating. And you guys in the chat? The chat is dead. How are you guys doing tonight? Is there anyone there? It's a little scary. What's going on?
Terrible thing for your health.
It is a terrible thing for my health, and something my wife is working on.
But that seems ridiculous for someone who works with health.
Yeah.
What's going on with you, man?
Sometimes, man, I just don't get it right.
How often?
What?
How often?
How often do I steal a bag of chips or something like that?
Do you eat garbage?
I don't know. No, hopefully not every day, but
hopefully not every day.
Yeah, maybe a couple of times a week.
Oh,
that's what with Rachel, my daughter with autism. That's like our thing is to go to the it's called the burger joint or to Shake Shack to get
Okay, he's clearly very uncomfortable now, and he's like, it's like a cop that gets a guilty conscience in an interrogation or something right now, and he spills his beans. Like, it's called the burger joint. He says, it's called the burger joint. Thanks, buddy.
Get a cheeseburger. We'll sneak some fries.
So you
live in large, we call it.
Like that mouth pleasure so much, you're willing to sacrifice a little bit.
I am, yeah. I have to concede that's the case.
Well, there's, I don't have to tell you, but there's a large body of data that connects poor diet to a host of diseases.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a crazy decision for a guy in your line of work.
There you go. Sometimes it's not all brain. It's something else.
But if you ate healthy food, the thing is your body starts craving healthy food. You start feeling.
That was another one of the most frustrating things during this whole pandemic was the majority of people that were the most irate about put your mask on, you anti-vaxxer, you're killing grandma. Like most of those people were people that didn't take care of their health for the most part. I'm just making an observation. I could be wrong about this, but it seemed that the people that were the most insane about controlling other people during COVID were the least healthy people. And that was very frustrating to me because they do nothing to protect their own health and they want to tell you how to live your life. And when they have no basis to do so, when it doesn't stop transmission, and we know masks are BS. Wally World. Hey, how you doing? It's so weird. The chats are set up differently. One's on the top and one's on the bottom. Terry Wallace. Oh, great. Can you guys get in the same chat? Geez, one of you guys is on Rumble, one of you guys is on Twitter, and the Rumble chat is on the top, and the YouTube chat is on the bottom. So it's like, yeah, it's strange. It's funny how it stacks. But anyway, thanks for joining, folks. Love you guys. Glad you're here. All right, let's continue watching Hotez talk about how horrible his diet is.
Yeah, no question.
Results.
No question about it.
Do you take vitamins?
I don't take vitamins.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think they do. I don't think they're needed because most in the American.
Hold up. You don't think they're needed while you're eating junk food?
Well, hopefully I'm not only eating junk food.
Okay,
right?
But
And that bothers me too. So like magnesium. Magnesium is a great supplement to take. I take probiotics daily. I take a lot of supplements. I take probiotics daily. I take fish oil. I take magnesium, L-arginine, freaking, you know, and when I'm working out, I have my own pre-workout, you know, creatine, nitric oxide, the L-arginine, you know, a good protein powder. But like I do that stuff to supplement my diet because I know I'm not getting, because I kind of eat like crap. It sucks. Like that's one of the reasons I run so far. So I can eat whatever the hell I want. And I know that I'm not getting all like the nutrients and stuff that I need. So I try to supplement it at least with supplements. And he's really like, you're not even taking like a multivitamin? I mean, if you're going to have the audacity to tell everybody what to inject themselves with to be healthy, and you literally do the opposite of health for your own life, it's not computing for me. It's not computing at all. You're not doing it like for what everybody was saying, to protect other people, to be part of a community, to, you know, to stop the spread, all that. Like that was said for the longest time, and people just couldn't make the connection from A to B. Okay, vaccine doesn't stop transmission. Therefore, that argument that everybody has to take it to protect them around the people around them is null and void. But people still, they would say, like at the same time, they would be fully aware that the vaccine doesn't stop transmission, and then in the next breath, they would tell you everybody's got to take it to protect those around them. That's how we're going to get through this thing. It blew my mind. Like smart people would say this whole time through. It was absolutely absurd, and it was very frustrating. But yeah. Okay, more of Hotez.
Oh, there's a large body of clinical research on the efficacy of vitamins, especially vitamins D, vitamins
I
B,
have taken vitamin D for periods, and the recommendation of my internist. Yeah.
What about essential fatty acids, which are great for your brain, fish oil, all these different things that are fantastic for
I'm not gonna argue with you.
What is going on with you, doctor?
You got it over me. Yeah,
we gotta listen, but you would have a much better argument.
You're making my wife's day here.
If you're taking care of yourself 100% instead of
you still need your vaccines.
I'm sure you do, but vaccines aren't going to prevent cancer.
No, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
There's a lot of diseases.
Or diabetes or cardiovascular disease.
Well, also, they're not just going to, you know, give you the energy you need to get through the day and think clearly. Like, I don't know. There's so many things. Like, I take collagen, too. I take probably stuff I don't need to take, but it's frustrating. Vaccines, like, no, like, health, you don't get your health at the freaking pharmacy or at the hospital. You get your health at the damn grocery store and the farmers markets and the trails. Hotez guys drive me crazy. I mean, just look at him. Just this soft, doughy. The people we look to for health advice are just so unhealthy. It drives me crazy.
Disease,
and a lot of these diseases are connected directly to diet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
Man. And other lifestyle changes.
Yeah. Good to get exercise.
Sedentary life. I try to go on the treadmill for 30 minutes.
You try.
Every morning. I do it. Actually, I'm pretty good about that.
Yeah.
30 minutes every morning.
Why don't you just go for an actual walk? It's more interesting.
All right. Now I feel like he's lying.
I do that too. So I do 30 minutes on the treadmill in the morning.
I do 30 minutes on the treadmill every day in the morning. I don't believe you.
Morning, and then I take a long walk with my wife in the evening.
Oh, that's good.
But the thing that knocks the crap out of you is the travel.
Yes,
I find that very frustrating because you don't exercise right, and then you don't eat.
This is where Dro rips them apart. This is the no excuses part, and I hear this from everybody. Oh, I can't because I'm tired. I can't because my life is so busy. I can't because of this, and I can't because of that. Nope, no excuses. Figure it out. Show up.
Well, and you don't control the diet as well, so that's.
Well, I have a solution to that. and eat well and exercise. Those are the solutions to that. Just do it. You know, I treat it like I'm brushing my teeth. I brush my teeth every day.
Yeah.
I exercise every day too.
Yeah.
So when I travel, I don't have an option. When I land, I go to the gym. This is how it goes. I land, I get in my hotel room, I put my shorts on.
Yeah, I do that too.
I
do that too.
It's the only way.
Yeah.
If you have to do it, if you say this is just what gets done, this is how you do it.
You don't need a gym membership. You don't even need weights. You don't need anything. You could do 200 crunches, 100 leg lifts, and 100 push-ups. You do that every day, and that'll take you probably 10, 15 minutes. It won't take you that long, 20 max. If you do that every day, what I just listed right there, you're going to be decent. And do some lunges and squats. You don't need a gym. And if you just make it part of your life, so sorry, Hotez, I'm not freaking buying it. I'm not buying it.
But
I try to be really compulsive about that. So
I have it written out. I know what I'm going to do, especially if.
But I will say I am not nearly as disciplined as Rogan. I fall off sometimes, and it can get tough.
It's great if the hotel has a good gym. The hotel, if they have weights and a bunch of different.
Or I'll run outside if we don't have it.
You run?
Yeah.
Do you?
Not very well, but
but you do. Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna get you.
I'm calling bullshit, folks. Sorry, Shelly. All right, I'm done with that video. Okay, so it got back and forth when Robert F. Kennedy even came in there. So I'll go through the whole Twitter thread. I have another article pulled up that sort of like goes through all of it because it's not a single Twitter thread. Those of you that aren't familiar with Twitter, quote tweeting is when you take somebody's tweet and you retweet it with your own tweet. So you take somebody's tweet, you post it, and then you write your own stuff above it. So this is a quote tweet battle because what that does is it brings it back into your arena essentially, and then all the people that follow you will see your quote tweet, and then they can engage with that person and their followers. And that's how people just sort of go back and forth on Twitter. So, but what that does is it makes it really hard to follow. You have to keep bouncing back and forth between. It's not just a thread that you can read through cleanly. So I'll get through that in a bit. And who was it? Can't remember. The post-millennial. Sorry. I don't know if you guys can still see this. The post-millennial did screenshots and they pulled it all out. But Dr. Peter Hotez says Spotify has stopped an event, has stopped even sort of trying to stem Joe Rogan's vaccine misinformation. It's really true. Ann Merlin, just awful. And from all the online attacks I'm receiving after this absurd podcast, it's clear many actually believe this nonsense. So that's from Peter Hotez, the guy that I was just showing you clips of. And then Rogan responds yesterday, Peter, if you claim what RFK is saying is misinformation, I am offering you $100,000 to the charity of your choice if you are willing to debate him on my show with no time limit. So RFK comes in. Peter, let's finally have the respectful, congenial, informative debate that American people deserve. So Joe Rogan offers him $100,000. I'll play. I'll do another quick clip. Can you guys see what I'm playing right there? Exactly. Well, we'll just exercise regularly. Just make it a habit. Make it a good habit. I don't know if you guys can still see this. Actually, yeah. So I'm going to get out of this article and I'm going to go over to the post-millennial. But it's just a quote tweet battle back and forth. So let's go to the next article because I got so much crap to get through tonight anyway. Let's go. Oops. All right, let's go over to the post-millennial. They got all of the quote tweets separated out, so it's easier to get through. But Elon got involved. What's his name? Mavericks owner, Shark Tank, Mark Cuban. He got involved. So many people are chiming in on this, and it's getting it's creating so much attention. Thank God for Spotify and thank God for Twitter right now. Otherwise, these conversations wouldn't be happening. And tons of people on the left are chiming in on this, and it's great because now people are asking questions. I mean, I think right now, still going on, Mario Narwhals is running a Twitter space right now that's getting fairly heated. But we got this article from the Post Millennial. It's all separated out. So got this here. Post Millennial: breaking, Joe Rogan challenges vaccine enthusiast Peter Hotez to debate RFK on misinformation. The article says the well-known comedian and podcast host Joe Rogan announced that he is offering Dr. Peter Hotez, who according to his Twitter bio is a professor of pediatrics as well as a vaccine scientist. He's offering him $100,000 of his charity of his choosing should he debate RF Kennedy on the topic of vaccines. Peter, if you claim what RFK is saying is misinformation, I'm offering. Yeah, I just read that to you. So here's the original tweet. And then Rogan's challenge for Hotez came after the doctor took to social media to trash the recent exchange between Rogan and RFK, sharing a critical article on the podcast while remarking, "It is just awful." He then claimed, "For all the online attacks I'm receiving after this absurd podcast, it's clear many actually believe this nonsense." Elon Musk appeared quite excited at the prospect of the two having a debate. He reacted to Rogan's post with 2 fire emojis. So, yeah, that sort of got everybody looking at it because if you guys know, if Elon even likes your tweet, it gets so many eyes on it. And, well, it's already Joe Rogan. Same thing. Joe Rogan follows you, retweets you. RFK, these are big names. These are all huge freaking names. So this is like the biggest Twitter spat in history. Hotez began his response by saying, "Joe, you have my cell, my email. I'm always willing to speak with you," but made no effort to say whether or not he would accept the debate or its terms. Rogan replied that Hotez was providing a non-answer, adding, "You are really serious. If you're really serious about what you stand for, you now have a massive opportunity for a debate that will reach the largest audience, a discussion that is like this that has never been had." Musk chimed in. He is afraid of a public debate because he knows he is wrong. So just throwing fuel on the fire. Oh, it's so good. So good. Hotez appeared to quickly delete a Twitter post he made, prompting Rogan to call him out online. So I guess he deleted this one. So this is where he said there's a non-answer. I challenge you to debate because publicly quote tweeted and agreed that with dog shit. Okay, sorry. This is a non-answer. I challenge you publicly because you quote tweeted and agreed with this dog shit Vice article. If you're really serious about what you stand for, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's him saying you have my cell. That's him retweeting Hotez when Hotez said, "Joe, you have my cell, my email. You can speak to me." And he says, "By the way, Peter, I saw this tweet that you deleted." And this was him quote tweeting Joe, where it says, Joe said, "Peter, if you claim what RFK is claiming misinformation, I am offering you $100,000 to a charity of your choice." And Hotez retweeted him and said, "Be serious, Joe. That's what you throw out for your hunting buddies on a weekend. A $50 million endowment, which you, Spotify, RFK Jr. can easily afford. Not for me, but so we can continue making low-cost, patent-free vaccines for the world's poor." Preceded by RFK's public apology. Did he basically say he'd do it for $50 million? Is that what he said right there? "Be serious, Joe. That's what you throw out on a hunting. That's what you throw out for your hunting buddies on a weekend." So, okay, it's clearly saying that figure is too low. A $50 million endowment, which you, Spotify, RFK Jr. can easily afford. Not for me, but so we can continue to make low-cost, patent-free vaccines for the world's poor. Preceded by RFK's public apology. Okay, that sounds like me. That sounds to me like he's saying, I'll debate him. You give me $50 million, and after I trounce him, I want RFK to publicly apologize. That's how I'm interpreting that tweet that he deleted, apparently. They could raise $50 million. They could get this up to $50 million for sure. After Hotez tried to further obfuscate from the question, instead lobbing complaints about vaccine disinformation, Rogan reacted by saying, "Again, I'm going to ask you very clearly, are you willing to debate RFK Jr. on my podcast?" And then Rogan continued to lay into Hotez, sharing a screenshot of an unhinged post he made while asking, "Are you sure I'm not part of a coalition with neo-fascist leanings? Seems like that's what you think, what you really think, or what you're projecting to the masses." And this is a tweet from Hotez. "I'm quite concerned about the Elon Tucker link. Then fold in Rogan and RFK, and it becomes a pretty formidable coalition of neo-fascist leanings in some other darker, perhaps more dangerous than Trump. In some ways, darker or perhaps more dangerous than Trump, in my opinion. Awful. I just hope Team Biden is preparing." Wow, man, that's okay. That's how they roll. All right. Hotez has attracted public attention in the past, as we've seen when he previously was called out by Rogan for his self-admitted poor eating and exercise habits during a previous appearance on his show. He's also been featured in the past on Tucker Carlson Tonight, during which former Fox News host Tucker Carlson highlighted his calls to sick federal law enforcement on people who disagree with his COVID-19 narratives. And yeah, we'll watch this video really quick and then we'll be done with this one.
You might have noticed that a lot of people in your world don't trust doctors these days. That's not a good sign. Probably half people you know are exploring alternative medical cures right now. Why is that happening? Well, there are a lot of reasons, but Dr. Peter Hotez is definitely one of those reasons. Hotez is a pediatrician who spent his life studying tropical parasites. He wouldn't seem to be the obvious go-to guest for cable news bookers looking for someone to speak knowledgeably about COVID. But Hotez is a crazed publicity addict. He will do any public appearance anywhere at any time. He never stops. Unfortunately for all of us, when Peter Hotez speaks, he discredits American medicine. He is a misinformation machine, constantly spewing insanity. Coolly compare Hotez's views on COVID to, say, Alex Jones's views on COVID and ask yourself, who's saner? It's not even close. Very few things Peter Hotez says has any relationship to reality. Here he is explaining back in July that there is no conceivable way that Joe Biden will ever announce a vax mandate.
All right. So that sort of brings me up to how I want to frame this show. So I don't want to present anything that's a conspiracy theory. Maybe at the end of the show I will, because conspiracies are fun, let's be honest. But I do want to stick to the things that we know they lied to us about. And I think we need to start treating our relationship with the government. And when I say the government, I mean any government agency, literally any government agency. We need to start treating our relationship with the government the way we would treat our relationship with a significant other or a family member or somebody that is very close to us, a friend, anybody. At a certain point, when somebody has crossed our boundaries, at a certain point, you have to cut people off, right? When people have crossed a line, everybody has their own different boundaries, but sometimes, especially with lies, like really big lies, and I'm not even necessarily cutting somebody off completely, but ending a relationship, like a relationship with somebody. How big of a lie does somebody have to tell you, and how many lies before you end that relationship? For me, that leash is very short. It's even a minor lie. If it's a deliberate lie that you told me, and like there's very few reasons to lie, in my opinion, especially to somebody that you allegedly care greatly about. So if somebody lies to me, that, I mean, it's sort of like a no exceptions policy type thing. It's like, no, that's it. You cross that line, it's done. It's over. So if we looked at our government in that same regard, let's review just some of the lies that we know they told us, and then let's sort of weigh them on how big of a deal were those lies. Were they big lies? Were they little lies? And what were the implications of those lies? What did those lies lead to? When we look at it from that perspective, it's really hard to argue that the last 3 years were downright tyrannical and immoral, wrong, and framed with lies, built on a foundation of lies. So that's sort of how I want to preface this show. So we're gonna talk about lab leak. We talk about the lab leak theory. It's a pretty big deal. Where did this come from? Well, that was a lie. They said you're a conspiracy theorist if you said it was from the lab. That's a big deal. Just that right there, end of the relationship. The vaccine stops transmission. We heard it from everybody. We heard it from the most credible people. Rochelle Walensky, our president, Fauci. We heard it from everybody. The vaccine stops transmission. You won't get COVID if you take this vaccine. That was a lie. That was a big lie. They tried to say, oh, well, it stopped. The data says it stopped the original Delta variant. No, what data? Show us. Show us that data. I haven't seen that data. I wonder if we're still live on YouTube. Wally World, you might want to jump over to Rumble. It's going to go dark over there any minute. That's a big lie. It stops transmission. That's a huge lie. People don't seem to care. Masks work. It was a lie. And it was always a lie. It was a lie from the beginning. Fauci even said that masks don't work in the beginning, and then he changed his story because everybody got the memo at that point. My background with masks, I knew they didn't work from the absolute get-go because I do have a very particular background with masks. Part of the industry that I'm in, you have to crawl around under houses and in attics and work in drop ceilings, so you're exposed to asbestos on the regular. All of our vans, we carried N95s. For the longest time, we have respirators that you have to get trained on. And masks have to get fitted to your face. All that kind of stuff. And N95s, on the box, it used to say, does not stop coronaviruses. They're not for that. They're for particulates. They're for dust, fiberglass, asbestos, that kind of crap. That's what they're for. So when all this mask stuff started happening from the very get-go, it was just such a huge pet peeve to me. And that all of the information that they put out about masks, even like one I haven't even put on my board, herd immunity, that one too, like natural immunity from infection. That was another gaslighting thing that they did too. They tried to say there's no such thing as natural immunity. Nobody's naturally immune to COVID. They tried to frame it as if people were saying, oh, there's natural immunity. Like people are just naturally immune to COVID, even if they haven't gotten it yet, when nobody was saying that. But there's people actually out there trying to frame it in that way. And we've known there's tons of footage of Fauci saying the best protection against reinfection that you can get, the best vaccine you can get is to get infected. There's him saying that verbatim. We knew this all before. It's a respiratory virus. We knew anyway. Yeah. And then like the last one we're going to sort of talk about, last big lie that should end a relationship. They're not going to impose a vaccine mandate. Nobody's going to be forced to take the vaccine. That's a conspiracy theory. You guys are out of your minds. And then every single one of these lies, it was always like, that's not going to happen, or, oh, it's only happening a little bit, and then, oh, it's actually happening, and this is why it's good. It's always the same freaking story. All right, I'll let Tucker finish here.
This is months and months of anti-science, anti-vaccine aggression coming from the far-right elements of the Republican Party. And you saw it play out at the CPAC conference where they said this is nothing more than an effort for power and control, and they're going to...
What up, Scorn Crypto? You might want to jump over to Rumble. Wally World just jumped over there. I have a feeling it's going to go dark on YouTube at any moment. And if you guys are watching on Twitter, if you want to, I can't see the chat on Twitter. So only chat I can see is YouTube and Rumble. So if you want to be in the chat, you got to jump over to Rumble.
First, they're going to force vaccines on us, then they're going to take away our Bibles and our guns, and all of that disinformation, meaning deliberate misinformation, came out of CPAC, the conservative news outlets.
Now, this guy is apparently a prominent figure at a big Texas hospital, I think Baylor Hospital. Why in the world would they let him do an MSNBC hit like that? If anybody is discrediting vaccines, making people afraid of them, he's such an obvious lunatic, and politicizing medicine, it's Peter Hotez. By the way, he's totally ignorant. A couple of months after he said that, Joe Biden announced, in fact, vaccines would be mandatory. Now, to be clear, it's not just Peter Hotez's predictions that are wrong. He's also a charlatan. Here he is warning that schools have no reason to lift their mask mandates. Now, this came weeks after the CDC, following Fauci's lead, admitted that cloth masks don't actually work. Watch.
If you start lifting mask mandates now, you're basically condemning all the kids to get infected with Omicron and having to live with those consequences, which would mean that some kids will have to be hospitalized or possibly worse. So it makes no sense to lift mask mandates at this point.
Yeah, so we were right. It's Baylor. If you look at his shirt, it says Baylor right on there. Now, why are the morons at Baylor letting their employee go on TV and say stuff like that? What a quick way to discredit your hospital. And again, all of American medicine. Peter Hotez is arguing on TV that anyone who disagrees with him, even when he lies, which is often, anyone who believes in the primacy of scientific data over the opinions of some nutcase from Baylor is spreading misinformation. And not only that, he believes that's a crime. He wants the federal government to deal with those people. Watch this.
And I've been saying, for the last year and a half, that the Biden administration has to realize that anti-science is a killer. Disinformation. Yeah. It's not even just disinformation. This is an anti-science empire right now, and we need Homeland Security. We need the Justice Department. We've really got to figure this out. And the Health and Human Services will not be able to figure this out on their own.
Hey, memo to Baylor. A lot of people give you money because they think you're a legitimate organization. This guy is discrediting you and our medical system. He's arguing in his little Baylor scrubs that people who don't agree with him belong in jail. The Justice Department needs to go after people who disagree with Peter Hotez. Sorry, Peter Hotez, we have freedom of speech in this country, and no one should be more grateful for that than you.
It's unreal. He says that the misinformation that's spreading online is killing people, while he's spreading misinformation. He's telling everybody that they need to take. He's tricking everybody into taking it by telling them that they need it, saying COVID's more dangerous than it actually is. Yep, I said that. He's saying that he's tricking people into thinking that they're protecting those around them by taking it. He's denying people informed consent, and he's making people that wouldn't ordinarily take the thing think that it's safer than it is and it's more effective than it is, and it stops transmission. It's denying people informed consent. You're literally killing people. It's the definition of projection. Accuse them of what you're doing yourself. So that's Dr. Peter Hotez, and I mean, he's not alone on this, obviously. I mean, Fauci was the ringleader of all this, but all of them, Fauci, Walensky, freaking Dr. Lena Wynn, all the talking heads, other than Tucker, and they're all guilty. Freaking Bill Gates, they're all guilty of denying people informed consent. Because I guarantee you, like, at least half of people didn't want to take this thing. And I tweeted this out earlier because I wanted people to see how many people in California took this thing. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but if you go to usafacts.org, state by state, you can see the vaccine uptake. So this is usafacts.org. And in California, 33,613,401 people, or God, we have a lot of people, or 85% of the state has received at least one dose. So 85% of Californians took at least one dose. And you had a 10% drop off. So a lot of that is because in order to do stuff, you had to prove that you'd taken at least one dose. And then they got a 10% drop off, and then I don't know how many took the booster. Overall, 29,588,939 people, or 75% of California's population, are considered fully vaccinated. Additionally, people or greater than 1% of California's population have received a booster dose. I don't think a lot of people took the booster, but so that's your informed consent right there. So with all the information that the official, the official institutions, the most trusted institutions, the FDA, the CDC, all your news outlets, the White House, all the information that everybody was putting out got 85% of Californians to take this thing. All right, let's review the lies because there's many of them. So we'll just get into them. Let's get right into it. This is the Zero Hedge article. I already went over this. All right, we're just gonna get right into some clips. We're gonna go Liberty lockdown, then watch a clip of RFK and Rogan talking. I encourage all you guys to go listen to that podcast on Spotify. It's 3 hours, and it's worth every freaking minute. This is a quick clip of RFK explaining one of the reasons why the vaccine industry, there should be some trust issues with the vaccine industry. And yes, RFK's voice is hard to get past. Try to get past it. The thing you'll notice with RFK is he's right to the point, and he's very clear with what he states. He's not wishy-washy and beats around the bush. And like Peter Hotez never actually says anything. He really doesn't. He never actually says anything. Take this because we say you're supposed to, or you're a conspiracy theorist. Like, that's really all he says. Now let's watch RFK and clearly why clearly explaining one of the things you should be concerned with regarding the vaccine industry. So this is a 4-minute clip, but it's very telling, and it's stuff I wasn't aware of because I haven't even gone down the ordinary of, like, other than the COVID-19 vaccine. I had never really looked into the vaccine stuff. I remember back in the day, the Jenny McCarthy stuff and saying it caused autism. And like everybody else, I thought that it had been debunked, but I don't know. Here's RFK talking about it.
You add it with the dead antigen, which is the viral particle. Your body confuses that toxin with the viral particle and gets frightened and mounts this huge, humongous.
What up, humbled surfer? Yes, exactly. The fentanyl crisis. There's so many more people in San Francisco that died from fentanyl than COVID. No, it's not even comparable. It's insane how many more people have died from fentanyl in San Francisco from COVID. And if you tell somebody in San Francisco, oh, yeah, I didn't take the vaccine and I never wear a mask, they will flip out on you as if you are literally murdering people all over the place. Meanwhile, they're walking over bodies as they walk through the Tenderloin. So there's that. Yeah. Terry Wallace, Humbled Surfer, Pete Grabber, Wally World, thank you guys for joining. Scorned Crypto, thank you guys so much.
Immune response. The next time it sees that virus, the immune response is there. So at that point, vaccinologists went around searching around the world to find the most horrendously toxic materials to add to vaccines. And there's a mantra in vaccinology that the more toxic the adjuvant, the more robust the immune response. And
so I thought, like, when he said that, I thought, wait, okay, what? That can't be. Like, they're putting the most toxic stuff they could find in the vaccines? What? Then listen to him explain why.
So that's why toxicologists and vaccinologists don't get along with each other. As the toxicologist would say to the vaccinologist, well, I understand it gave you your immune response, but then what is the fate of that in your body? Where is it going? Is it being excreted? Is it being lodged in the brain? Is it penetrating the blood-brain barrier? And the vaccinologist could not answer those questions and did not want to.
So, like, that's a very simple, legitimate question that anybody can wrap their brain around. Hey, where's the mercury going? Where's it actually going in the body? What happens to it? That's a legitimate, easy question that everybody can understand. But Hotez doesn't want to talk about it. Why? Why doesn't anybody want to talk about that? Like, and this whole thing with Rogan, the back and forth with Rogan too, hey, let's have a debate. They should, I don't like the whole let's have a debate thing. You should throw it out. Okay, let's debate this one thing. How about, hey, should the vaccines have even been developed in the first place? Did we have an effective treatment for COVID-19? And should the emergency authorization been given to these companies for the vaccine? Should that have happened in the first place? That's your debate. Just that right there. That could be a freaking multi-hour debate back and forth right there, because you have ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, the zinc, the Z-Pak, the azithromycin, vitamin C, vitamin D, all that stuff. And as it went on, people were using these things in different combinations that looked to be very effective when people got COVID. And if they got right on this stuff, it was very effective. Meanwhile, there's people that got super sick, went to the hospital, and are like, we're going to send you home. Call us back when your oxygen saturation gets to this crazy number. It was insane. The hospitals were sending people home. It's like, it's either throw them on a respirator or send them home. It was like no in between. Meanwhile, there's doctors that were like, okay, you know what? We know these drugs are safe, and let's just start throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And it's like, I think that's what doctors have been doing since the beginning of time. Okay, hey, let's try stuff that we know is safe and has worked on other stuff. Let's start trying stuff. And doctors did that. And they found stuff that worked, and that got just immediately censored. And that's when a lot of people's spidey sense started going off. I was like, wait a minute, why are you guys suppressing things that are looking like these are legitimate treatments for COVID-19? It looks like you guys are suppressing treatments for this thing you're saying is so deadly. What is going on here? And then you find out that if there's an effective treatment for said virus, they can't have an emergency use authorization for the vaccines by law. You're not allowed to. So in order for these vaccines to go through, they had to stomp out any effective treatment. Have a debate on that. Just that right there. Frame it differently.
So they basically moved the toxicologists out of these, out of the vaccine, the whole vaccine universe. Anyway, so when it was added in 1932, the industry said, Eli Lilly said, well, the reason, because everybody was saying, well, how can you put mercury into a child? Who would do that? And they said, well, it's a different kind of mercury. It's ethyl mercury, and the ethyl mercury is excreted very quickly, so it won't stay in your body. They had no science to say that, but that's what they were saying for years. And then in 2003, a CDC scientist called Picciero did a study where he gave tuna sandwiches that were mercury, contaminated to children. And then measured their blood, and the mercury from the tuna sandwich was there, a half-life 64 days later. So it was still there 64 days. And he injected the children with mercury from a vaccine, and that mercury disappeared from their blood within a week. And this kind of confirmed what Eli Lilly had said in 1932. Oh, it disappears really quickly from the body. And that was published, I believe, in the Lancet Pediatrics. But immediately, the journal began getting letters from people, including this famous scientist called Dr. Boyd Haley, who is he's the chair of that chemistry department of the University of Kentucky. And he said, what happened to the mercury? Because Picciero couldn't find it in the children's urine or in their feces or in their hair or sweat or nails. So where is it? And NIH actually then commissioned a study. And because at that point, they were really trying to figure out, whether this was dangerous. And they commissioned a very famous scientist called Thomas Burbacker up at the University of Washington, Seattle, to do a study with monkeys, with macaques. And he did the same study Picciero did, but he did something you can't do with children, which he then killed the monkeys. And then he looked for the mercury. And what he found was the mercury, yes, it left their blood immediately. The ethyl mercury from the vaccines was gone from their blood in a week. The methyl mercury from the tuna fish was there 2 months later. But when he sacrificed the monkeys and did postmortems, he found that the mercury had not left their body. Instead, the reason it was disappearing from their blood is because ethyl mercury crosses the blood-brain barrier much easier than methyl mercury. The ethyl mercury from the vaccines was going directly to the brains of these animals, and it was lodging there and causing severe inflammation. And we now know it's there 20 years later. So, what, so when Burbank went off, and when I'm on the phone with Offit, and he said the ethyl mercury is excreted quickly. And I said, how do you know that? And he said, because of the Picciero study. Because the study by Picciero found that it was excreted quick in a week. And I said, but you're familiar with the Burbacker study that showed it's gone to the brain. And there was dead silence on the phone. And then he said to me, he kind of hemmed and hawed and said, well, you're right. It's not that study. It's just a whole mosaic of studies. And I said, can you cite any for me? And he said, I'll send them to you. And he never did. That's the last I heard.
So everything he says there is very easy to follow and understand. And he says that when I confront like the top decision makers about this and say why, you're aware of this study that shows that the mercury goes to the brain. It isn't actually excreted. Why? And he's like, oh, I got other studies. And he gets all wishy-washy, and then he never sends them the studies. That's suspect, man. That's super suspect. So Clint, who's on my show like 3 episodes, I think. There's a reason the media is ignoring RFK, ignoring RFK Jr. and his run for president. In under 5 minutes, he can make Americans reconsider everything they ever thought they knew about big pharma and vaccines. And it's true. He's so clear and concise and to the point. And I think that's why people are terrified to debate him. Like Dr. Hotez is, he's a lawyer and like he's going to use trickery and all that kind of stuff. Get out of here. Like, you can't trick facts. And you listen to Kennedy talk with anyone, he never raises his voice. He never interrupts people. He never talks over people. He lets everybody get everything out that they want to say, and then he returns with his rebuttal. He's the easiest person to talk to on earth from everything I see. So, people not wanting to debate him, a doctor should be able to trounce him, right? Like, why doesn't anybody want to debate him? Doesn't have to be on Rogan's show. That's fine. It doesn't even have to be RFK and freaking Hotez. It could be freaking Fauci and Dr. McCullough. Have them debate. That would be a great debate. Have Dr. Malone and Rochelle Walensky debate. That would be a great debate. Get them all in a Twitter space. All this stuff. Like, that's what I'm so thankful for right now. 3 years too late, but at least people are having the conversation. Hey, you know what? Maybe we should figure out if these COVID-19 vaccines are actually safe and effective. Maybe we should try to figure that out. At least the conversation's taking place now. So, yeah, they never did any tests. It seems never any legitimate tests. We're gonna go back to Hotez when he was on Rogan. Actually, I might have already played this clip for you. Hold on really quick. I already played this, and yeah, I already played. This is the junk food clip where Hotez is basically saying, yeah, I eat like crap, but you need to take vaccines. So I'm not even gonna play that. I already played it for you. This is a funny clip. I came across this one. It's almost 5 minutes long, but it's like a montage. It's a funny montage of back and forth of Hotez speaking out of both sides of his mouth. So now we're really going to get into the lies, and we're going to catch these people in lies. So we saw the whole Twitter spat back and forth. Let's see Hotez essentially arguing with himself. This is Matt Orphalia over on Twitter. This is just a great little montage here. All right, I'm going to play this whole thing. I'm going to try not to interrupt it.
One of the things that we're not hearing a lot about is the unique potential safety problem of coronavirus vaccines.
And then something changed.
Any vaccine released by emergency use authorization by the FDA is an outstanding vaccine.
J&J's vaccine has a risk of life-threatening blood clots. When you hear the beep, that's the sound of safety.
So don't overthink it. They're both really good. They're all really good vaccines. Get vaccinated now.
You gotta call now.
If you wait, it's going to be really too late to protect your child.
If this was your child, what happens next could make it the worst day of your life.
So even though COVID poses zero threat to healthy children,
Vaccinate your children.
Do the right thing. Be safe and not sorry.
I'm strongly recommending for adolescents to get their 2 doses of vaccine and fully immunized after those 2 doses.
Advanced technology that can help save lives.
This is going to be a long-lasting vaccine. A long-lasting vaccine.
A few moments later.
We're seeing that 2 doses is not holding up well for emergency room visits. It's not holding up well for hospitalizations.
Here we go again.
Everyone's going to need a booster. You need that 3rd immunization.
Triple the amount.
Get that 3rd immunization. The 2 mRNA vaccines were always a 3-dose vaccine. The 2 mRNA vaccines were always a 3-dose vaccine. I've always said this is a 3-dose vaccine. I've always said this is a 3-dose vaccine. This is a 3-dose vaccine.
But I'm not done yet.
That 3rd immunization, the problem is it's not holding up. So we may have to look at sort of innovative solutions.
Oh God, not this again.
A 4th immunization, just to keep them going, to keep the country going. We have to consider some out of the box things. A 4th immunization. A 4th immunization. Get that 2nd boost. A 2nd boost to keep the country going. I've made that recommendation. A 4th immunization.
But I'm still not done.
1 semester later.
Unfortunately, the numbers are starting to trend up again. So the hospitalizations are up. And so the most important message that I have this morning is get your new.
All right. So one of the things that happens when somebody that we trust inherently so much that we have so much faith in that person that if they were to lie to us, it would turn our world upside down. This happens a lot. And when you catch someone that you trust inherently in a lie like that, you don't want to believe it. And you look for somebody to tell you why you're wrong. Why, no, they didn't actually lie. You're misunderstanding for whatever reason. So you'll actually listen to the person that lied to you. And you'll let them justify why they lied to you and gaslight you and spin it. And you'll actually feel better because they explained to you that they didn't really lie to you. But like once you can detach from that whole situation and look back, you'll realize that everything was lies. And it's just lie after lie after lie after lie. And they're never going to admit that they're lying. It doesn't matter if you hold up irrefutable proof right in front of their face. They will lie directly to your face with zero qualms about it. You're never going to get them to admit that they lied to you. And that's one of the hardest things with narcissistic abuse is you want that closure. You want them to say, yeah, you know what? You're right. I did lie. I did cheat. I did do that horrible, awful thing. They're never going to do it. And you have to do what's called no contact or gray rock. That's what we have to do with Dr. Peter Hotez. Look at this montage of lies. It's not just one lie. There's so many, the quantity of lies, and then the degree of how big each lie is. It breaks the brain of people that have been paying attention this whole time, that knew they were lying about very specific things the whole time, lying right to our face. That's why there's people living in 2 completely separate realities, especially here in California.
New bivalent booster.
Willie and Lise were saying they got their booster, and I was like, oh, I need to get mine. And then I found out they're talking about the 3rd shot. And is that the bivalent, or is it the 4th booster, or does it matter? Like,
don't worry so much about the number of.
There's no wrong way to use it.
You have to get it. This new bivalent booster.
You can double or triple stack them.
The new bivalent one is doing a much better job. You have to get a booster.
Yeah.
You need to get this new bivalent booster. That bivalent booster for COVID.
But does everyone ages 12 and older need a booster?
The answer is yes. Yes. And by the way, if you're over 50 and have gotten 2 boosters and more than 2 to 4 months out, you're going to need a 3rd booster as well, a 5th immunization.
5.
I don't think we're going to need an annual booster like flu.
Eventually.
Dr. Hotez supports yearly boosters, just like flu.
But I'm still not done.
It looks as though the boosters are not holding up quite as well as we'd like. And I think our thing.
If those of you have ever been confused about what the term "moving the goalpost" means, it's this. This is moving the goalpost.
Thinking is going to change, and that what's going to happen is every few months we may need another booster.
Perfect results each and every time.
We just could not overcome that massive disinformation campaign, these fake concepts of herd immunity and discrediting masks.
Dr. Hotez, you are a national treasure.
It is picking off young people like we've never seen.
Dr. Peter Hotez, that was extremely informative.
Disinformation that you're hearing, that kids are fine, it's nonsense. Kids need to get that vaccination.
You healthcare workers have been our saviors.
Watch out for that misinformation.
Dr. Peter Hotez is probably one of the smartest people on this topic.
If you haven't gotten your 5 and ups vaccinated yet, now's the time to do that.
Dr. Peter Hotez, thank you for saving the world.
They also support giving that third immunization for the 12 to 17-year-olds. People have to feel safe.
Dr. Hotez, you are a voice of reason.
Take down the fake information.
These fake concepts of herd immunity.
Our last hope is to vaccinate our way through this.
Make certain that everybody's vaccinated, including their kids. That's the single most important thing right now the American people have to do.
Dr. Peter Hotez was a person that we like to go to for the sort of expertise.
The single most impactful thing you can do is make certain that you're fully boosted and preferably 2 boosted.
Later.
Monkeypox is a global emergency.
And it's accelerating among a specific social network of men who have sex with men, not because it's sexually transmitted.
Monkeypox is sexually transmitted, almost exclusively.
Before we let you go, we have to stop and applaud you because I know a lot of MSNBC viewers who have watched you constantly for the last 3 years or so and have come to.
Yeah, remember how monkeypox disappeared super fast from the headlines? And it was like, it seemed to me it disappeared really quick after a kid got monkeypox and a dog got monkeypox. And then people stopped talking about it so much. It's weird. Wonder why that was.
Trust you. I don't know if they fully appreciate what you have done.
So yeah, there's the all the sycophants for Dr. Peter Hotez, and there's all the litany of lies that just Hotez himself told you right there. Just all those lies right to your face. And at what point do you stop listening to the person that lied to you? It's psychological manipulation at its best, and that is what they did to everyone in mass. All the institutions in lockstep. So, this is a piece from a Midwestern doctor. This is tweeted out by Dr. Peter McCullough. And he does have a bunch of links of other articles that he wrote in here. But this is from June 18th. A Midwestern doctor. You can Google it. It's from The Forgotten Side of Medicine. And he writes, Peter Hotez's war against science. Compassionate approaches for dealing with those who promote falsehoods and silence the truth. A Midwestern doctor, June 18th, 2023. Peter Hotez is well known for receiving millions for vaccine development and being a militant defender of the narrative who maliciously attacks anyone who challenges him, but refuses to ever debate anyone who disagrees with him. And that's a hyperlink, which links to another article that he wrote that has a bunch of documentation, which I should have put it in the show notes. We're just going to read his article. And yeah, take it with a grain of salt because this is kind of an opinion piece. This began a big problem because prior to COVID-19, the media paraded him around to advocate for mass censorship of anyone who questioned the vaccines. His publicity campaign then paved the way for mass censorship we saw over the last few years, which likely cost millions of lives during the pandemic, since everyone who questioned the dysfunctional pandemic's response online was silenced. After the initial objective was achieved, Peter Hotez pivoted to calling calling for the government to target and silence anyone who questions the vaccine narrative. He justified these fascist demands with his lies, and that's another hyperlink, that anyone who questioned the vaccines were mass murderers and engaged in a war against science. Recently, Hotez, who always hurls inflammatory allegations, picked a fight with Joe Rogan, and the unprecedented public response exposed Hotez's grift to the entire world. Many assumed Hotez's refusal to debate vaccine misinformation in return for a massive donation being given to a charity of Hotez's choice. Meant all of Hotez's claims about helping the poor were nothing more than a grift. Because of the damage Hotez has done to the world, I've dug into his background and discovered many concerning things about his character, how he sees himself in the past, how he sees himself and his past conduct. One of the most concerning things is that he was one of the mad virologists who was complicit in the GOF research on the SARS coronavirus, which led to the lab leak that gave us COVID-19. Oh wow. Even more unbelievable, at the same time he did this, he had a massive grant from the NIH to develop a SARS vaccine for a SARS lab leak, a vaccine he has since developed and brought to the market. This is all hard to believe, so I did my best to cover just who Hotez is in detail here and provide helpful perspectives on how we can compassionately but effectively deal with difficult people like Hotez. So he has a lot of links in here. Here, I'll share it on screen really quick just so you guys can see this. I want you to at least go to this article because I don't have the time to go into all his links that he shared. So here it is. This is a midwesterndoctor.beehive.com. So, and Beehive is spelled BEEHIIV. So, a midwesterndoctor.beehive.com. This is Peter Hotez's War Against Science, the Forgotten Side of Medicine. So, and you can see all these hyperlinks that he has here. So these are all different articles that he's written. So this guy's really dug into Peter Hotez. So if you want to go down the Peter Hotez rabbit hole, it seems that this guy's the guy to go to. So, all right, enough with that. We got so much more to get into because there's lies. There's so many lies. That's why I don't think that I'll be able to do a COVID lies they told us episode in just 2 hours. It's going to take a lot more than that. All right. So how is the left reacting to all of this online Twitter back and forth between Rogan and Hotez? They're reducing it to debate me, bro culture. That's what they're saying. So here's Nina Turner. Nina Turner on Twitter. Sorry. Debate me, bro culture has gone overboard. Debate and discussion is good, but simply having a platform doesn't make someone an expert on every issue. It also doesn't make someone entitled to another one's time or energy. No, but both of those guys have been on Joe Rogan's show. So what's the problem? Why would they not want to go on there and discuss with each other? Like Rogan gave both of them the time of day. So yeah, nobody's entitled to anything, but why don't you guys want to have the conversation? Like, that's the thing. Why don't you guys want to have the conversation about all this stuff? There's so much to go over. So that's how the left seems to be reducing this whole thing. Just saying that it's a big joke and it's debate bro culture. The science is settled, guys. There's no need to even have the discussion. In fact, if you want to have the discussion, you should be censored on all platforms, because you're a deplorable human being and nobody loves you. I'm going over to Kyle Swanson on Twitter. So this was his response to all of this crap. Oops, wrong person. My bad. I hate it when it does that. All right, sorry. Kyle Swanson on Twitter. This is his response to all this crap that's going back and forth. So he puts together a meme for the debate me bro crowd, and he puts this little thing together. The BS asymmetry principle. The amount of energy needed to refute BS is an order of magnitude bigger than to produce it. And I don't necessarily agree with this. Wait, I bet the moon is made of cheese. You know, shows two guys talking. Then one guy says, well, spectrographic analysis and orbit calculations suggest not. Plus, we built a rocket and took people there, and they couldn't eat it. He says, yeah, I'm still thinking cheese. So, like, that's what they're reducing this argument down to. They're saying that RFK is saying that the moon is made of cheese. That's the level of ridiculousness of all the stuff that RFK has researched for decades can be reduced to RFK is essentially saying the moon is made of cheese. So that's how Kyle Swanson views this whole thing. I don't know who Kyle Swanson is. Okay. What? Neurosurgeon? I don't believe you. I don't want you operating on anyone's brain, sir. That's okay. Well, put you on blast there, Kyle Swanson, but that's stupid what you said. It's just dumb. RFK isn't suggesting that the moon is made of cheese, nor is that a fair comparison to anything he says. You big freaking jerk. Let's go to Gary Peterson on Twitter and see what he reduces this argument to. So, also a meme. Never forget when the spoiled children called Christ's ability to walk on water misinformation. He famously responded, I'll give 10 shillings to whatever charity. Now debate me, bro. So this guy decided it would be a great thing to do to make a meme. An AI. I wonder what the search he put into AI. This is the AI image of Jesus like yelling at a kid. So that's what he reduced this to. I don't know. What comparison is he trying to make here? Like, this almost feels like he's giving like godlike undertones to the vaccine industry. I don't know. That's how they reduce this argument. It's just, I don't know. To me, it seems like there's one side that's like, okay, here's all the reasons why I think vaccines are dangerous. That's what RFK is saying. On the other side saying, well, you shouldn't listen to that person because they're a conspiracy theorist and this and that. And they never actually say anything. They never say anything. And the more people look into it, the more people are finally like, all right, I need to actually look at this because everybody's talking about it. And they finally look at things with like, okay, could I be wrong about something? Once somebody does that, a whole new world opens up to them. There's so many people getting red-pilled right now with all this RFK stuff. So they're like, wait, he's a Kennedy. He's a Democrat. So people are starting to listen. And well, I feel like the views of people are changing, finally. I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's go over to Clandestine here on Twitter. Let's watch another one of these montages of lies. The montages of lies. So this is a Clandestine, and he tweets out, the medical establishment and their subservient Covidians don't understand. Oh, I'm sorry. The medical establishment and their subservient Covidians don't understand. You all declared with the utmost certainty that the jabs were safe and effective. You were wrong. You are not in an intellectual or morally superior position. It's time for you to all take a seat. Yes, very well said. Let's watch all these freaking jerks just lying to us and talking to everybody with the most disdain on earth. Oh, yeah, I know what this clip is. This might be triggering to you folks. This is a reminder of how they talk to us. This is a reminder of how they didn't let us in restaurants. They didn't allow you on sports teams. You lost your jobs. All sorts of things. And this is how they talked about you. You disgusting, anti-vaxxing deplorables that want to kill grandma. This is just a reminder for all you horrible, racist, bigot anti-vaxxers.
You are the unvaccinated. You are the problem. It is the unvaccinated who are the problem, period, end of story.
The only people that you can blame, this isn't shaming, this is the truth, maybe they should be shamed, are the unvaccinated.
It's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks.
Anyone you came into contact with will blame you, as will the rest of us who have done the right thing by getting vaccinated.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
I think it's time to get our moral house in order, Anderson. It's the unvaccinated who are the threat.
All of us vaccinated folks are going to start wearing masks to protect the unvaccinated folks. It's called a Christian value.
You're basically punishing the vaccinated for the sins of the unvaccinated.
People are not behaving honorably. The unvaccinated are basically saying, well, it's open season for me. I can do whatever I want as well.
The unvaccinated are basically beating their breasts, running around the country saying, we don't.
I'm going to go back to that short little clip of Leanna Wen right there. Yeah, this one really quick. So hold on. I want to remind you of this time period.
Behaving honorably. The unvaccinated are basically saying, well, it's open season for me. I can do whatever I want as well.
So remember the short period of time where everybody said, I don't know if it was like this all over, but in California for a short period of time, if you're vaccinated, you can stop wearing your mask. But if you're unvaccinated, you still have to wear one. But what ended up happening is all the freaking vaccinated people, because they wanted to show that they're part of the Branch Covidians, they kept wearing their masks. And then the unvaccinated people stopped wearing them because stores weren't enforcing it, but they weren't asking anybody to prove that they'd been vaccinated at that point. So everybody was getting super mad. So it was the exact opposite thing. It was hilarious. But remember, that's how they thought of us. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. If you're unvaccinated, you do. And there's no science to support any of that crap. The way they want all of us to forget how they behaved during this whole thing. Don't forget. Don't let them forget.
The unvaccinated are basically beating their breasts, running around the country saying, we don't care, we're living free, and so forth.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
The unvaccinated, a group that includes children and people acting like children. And the rest of us are starting to get pissed off.
The vaccinated feel the unvaccinated are making me upset or angry.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
Well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom.
The other day, Howard Stern weighed in with a much different approach. Take a look.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? Their freedom.
But you're treading on our freedom and you're making other people sick, and really you're killing other people.
The anti-vaxxers, they seem to have a thing for death and home remedies.
The anti-maskers turned anti-vaxxers are not just putting their own lives at risk. If that was the issue, we could just say that we can watch them compete to win place or show in the Darwin Awards.
We have to start doing things for the greater good of society and not for idiots who think that they can do their own research.
And once you start hearing that phrase being thrown around, you have to start doing stuff for the greater good. You're going down the socialist and communist road. That's just hopefully that montage wasn't too triggering for you guys, but yeah, that's how they treated us. Don't forget. That's what happened. They did that. Don't forget. There's so much crap that they did that was evil that I forget. Like I get reminded, I'm like, oh yeah, they did that. I forgot about that. I forgot about that little bit of evil that they did because there's so much of it. All right, let's go over to another. This isn't a montage. This is Brett Baer sort of calling some stuff out. This is the lab leak. Let's go over to some lab leak stuff because remember, in the beginning, this was a natural spillover event. This came from a wet market. Remember, it was racist to say that it came from a lab in Wuhan, China that does research on coronaviruses. That it was racist to say that, but it wasn't racist to say that Chinese people are so gross and dirty that they eat bats from a wet market, and that's where it came from. So that was the non-racist thing to say. Remember, so that whole thing too. All right, let's go over to Kevin Tober on Twitter. He tweeted out a clip from Brett Baer. And yeah, let's get a little reminder about the lab leak. Another lie. Remember, at what point are the lies big enough, or is there enough quantity of lies that you end the relationship?
You look back, Brett, and this is often happens. We move on. These stories move on. They don't get covered elsewhere. But if you look back at the time, what was being talked about in the media about, in fact, our reporting on the early stages of origins of COVID, this is some of that. Take a listen.
The far right has now found its own virus conspiracy theory.
A lot of people on the right love that phrase, escape from the lab, because it sounds like something from a Marvel movie or a comic book.
Don't try to spool up some of whoever was wearing tinfoil hats in your audience. These conspiracy theorists.
Sorry, I screwed that all up.
Not covering the new evidence or the story as it develops.
Well, it's understandable on a human level that they wouldn't, because it makes them, so many of them, if not all of them, look so bad. The skeptics, time and again, have been right. The establishment medical authorities have been proved wrong, and the journalists who went along with whatever they said have been proved wrong as well, as those three clips just illustrated. And one wonders, Brett, I think, what happens if we have another pandemic and the authorities come out and say this or that? Will they be trusted? They need, we do need a medical establishment we can trust. Right now, we don't have it.
Britt, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
And there's still people that'll say, well, it hasn't been proven that it came from the lab. There's still people that'll say that. So remember, the most recent thing that came out, I believe, that suggested, or the people that thought they came from a lab, was the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. They did an actual investigation. I can't remember why that's under their jurisdiction, but I don't have it pulled up. But that's what their report suggested, that they think that it came from the lab. That's the most likely scenario of the origins of the coronavirus, was from the Wuhan lab in China. All right. We're going to go to another montage because there's plenty more lies to talk about. We're done with Hotez, but we're not done with the lies because they were all in lockstep with one another. And let's go to the head cretin of all of them, Dr. Anthony Fauci. He was the ringleader of lies the whole time, the king of flip-flop, back and forth. He went back and forth on so many things, that the mask was the biggest thing. How in the beginning he's like, nobody should be wearing a mask. You're going to get some schmutz in it and mess with your face. Such a piece of garbage. All right, let's go over to Mike Barr TV over here on Twitter. And let's just share a little montage of lies from Dr. Anthony Fauci.
I feel really confident that if this virus acts like every other virus that we know, once you get infected, get better, clear the virus, that you'll have immunity that will protect you against reinfection. So it's never 100%, but I'd be willing to bet anything that people who recover are really protected against reinfection.
As high as the protection is with natural infection, what's the durability compared to the durability of a vaccine? So it is conceivable that you got infected, you're protected, but you may not be protected for an indefinite period of time. So I think that is something that we need to sit down and discuss seriously, because you very appropriately pointed out it is an issue.
Schools that did close down, we're now seeing just disastrous levels of learning loss among poor children, children of color, mental health crisis. I wonder if you would recommend locking down schools if you had to do it all over again.
Well, again, it's first of all, I didn't recommend locking anything down. You're asking me questions. You're talking about the CDC is the public health agency that uses their epidemiologists and their science-based approach to make recommendation with a few cases of community spread. This was way before there was a major explosion like we saw in the Northeastern corridor driven by New York City metropolitan area, I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. And that was a very difficult decision because I knew it would have serious economic consequences, which it did. People should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak.
And remember, he justified this lie later on. They asked him, well, why did you say that nobody needs to be wearing masks? And he said, well, we had a mask shortage and we didn't want everybody going out and buying masks. Wait, what? So wait, hold on. You actually did just admit that you lied. And then you're justifying it, saying this is, well, we did it for a good reason? Again, in a relationship, when you catch somebody in lies or a lie, how big does that lie have to be for you to A, at least stop listening to anything further that they say in terms of advice, and B, completely end the relationship? Because at a certain point, this person clearly just lying to you to take some sort of advantage of you. What else? What other reason would they have to lie to you? Fauci repeatedly lied to you.
Wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a
Ironically, he's telling the truth here. This is true.
droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
Make sure you wear a mask. So you wear a mask. Then you want it to fit better. So one of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over, which actually here and here and here, where you could get leakage in, is much better contained.
Right? Those are all big lies. Those are big lies that have proven to be false. So that is the only point that I'm trying to make here. So them being all righteous about, oh, debate me, bro culture. I'm sorry, you guys lied, like flat out lied. And then those of you that weren't lying, you were lied to. And some of you still don't realize that you were lied to because you're suffering from narcissistic abuse and you are in a trauma bond with your abuser. And you don't want, you want somebody to reassure you that you haven't been lied to. So you're still listening to your abusers that are lying to you. You need to stop listening to your abusers and actually look at the evidence that's being presented to you. Because there's lots. They lied to you guys. All right, let's go over to New York Post and see how they lied. One of the mechanisms they use to lie. And we'll go to the New York Post specifically because remember, they're the ones that broke the Hunter Biden laptop story. And that's one of the things that got suppressed the most. That, in my opinion, that single story being suppressed changed the outcome of the 2020 election. I'm just trying to get a strike on YouTube right now. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all YouTube, Google, all censoring the New York Post article about Hunter Biden, in my opinion, changed the outcome of the 2020 election. And from my vantage point, is election interference. I don't see how else you could paint it. So, okay. This article from New York Post. Facebook fact checkers are the real fake news after censoring Post story. And this is by Post editorial board. This is from April 17th. Oh, April 17th, 2020? Huh. This is an opinion editorial as well. All right. Take this with a grain of salt, what I'm about to read, because this is from 2020. Way back on February 23rd, the Post ran an opinion piece by Steve Mosher saying that we couldn't trust China's story about the origins of COVID-19. He argued that the virus might have jumped to the human population thanks to errors at a Chinese laboratory in Wuhan, rather than via the city's now notorious wet market. The piece was widely read online until Facebook stepped in. The social media giant fact checkers decided this was not a valid opinion. If you tried to share Mosher's column on Facebook, the social network stuck to a false information alert on top saying that finding was fact-checked by independent fact-checkers and preventing your friends from clicking to connect to the original article to see it for themselves. Okay. Again, this was an opinion column, not a news report. So yeah, they censored an opinion piece because that was a unacceptable view, as Justin Trudeau would put it. Mosher cited a host of, I think, getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, guys. I think I got bit on the back of my neck. I got my window open. I'm stupid. Mosher cited a host of suggestive facts, including urgent government directives, the sudden trip of China's top bioware expert to Wuhan, and that nation's shoddy record of lab safety, as well as gaping holes in the wet market explanation, such as the fact that the market in question doesn't sell bats, the animal from which the bug supposedly jumped. Okay. How exactly did Facebook determine that Mosher's reasoned arguments constituted false information? Well, in fact, it didn't so determine. Rather, it was an independent fact checker. And who did the fact checker rely on for this opinion? As reporter Cheryl Atkinson notes, one report consulted had a clear conflict of interest. She had regularly worked with the Wuhan's researchers and even done her own experiments there. Danielle E. Anderson, assistant professor, Duke NUS Medical School in Singapore, personally attested to the lab's strict control and containment measures. Anderson did admit, however, that Mosher was correct when he mentioned that SARS did twice escape Beijing Research Lab in 2004. The other expert who weighed in noted her objection. Any reasonable government would strengthen safety and security procedures in a high containment labs that will and should be working with novel coronavirus to develop countermeasures and diagnostics. Well, yes, any reasonable government would. Sorry, I lost my place. Because these medical researchers took offense that someone would question the Wuhan lab's protocols, Facebook decided that you weren't allowed to speculate online. Nearly 2 months after, of course, Mosher isn't alone in his opinion. This week brought hard news in the form of State Department cables from January 2018, showing that the U.S. government had long-standing grave concerns about the safety programs at the Wuhan lab, China's only level 4 biohazard laboratory. And multiple outlets, including Fox News and the Washington Post, reported that the top U.S. national security officials are increasingly of the belief that the bug came from the lab. The New York Post has asked for weeks to get Facebook to unblock the Mosher article. On Friday, the social network finally did so, though without acknowledging that they had been wrong all along. As a significant source of news for much of the world's population, Facebook has a clear responsibility to do better. If it's going to block false information, it needs better fact checkers and more people watching over those watchmen. When you defense against fake news but kills free discussion, your system is worse than no defense at all. Very well written. I think that's an excellent opinion piece. Crazy as man. That's all the way back in April of 2020. So look at all the censorship they did after this article was written. So that's funny. That's just showing the censorship of the lab leak theory story. So don't forget how much they censored crap, because they censored the crap. They stomped out any dissenting discussion. All right, let's go over to David C. Willis here on Twitter, and let's look at another quick clip. All right, David C. Willis, USA on Twitter. This is the Fauci clip. I'm not going to play the whole clip. I'm not going to play the second part of it because it's a joke, but this is another clip of Fauci lying.
It's absolutely the case, and that's the reason why we say when you get vaccinated, you not only protect your own health, that of the family, but also you contribute to the community health by preventing the spread of the virus throughout the community. In other words, you become a dead end to the virus. And when there are a lot of dead ends around, the virus is not going to go anywhere.
What?
Okay, so he's saying it stops transmission. You take the vaccine, the virus stops at you. Like that's what Rachel Maddow said as well. So that's Fauci saying how the vaccine stops transmission right there. And remember, at that EU meeting, the dude from freaking the Netherlands or wherever, I can't remember where he was from, he asked the lady from Pfizer straight up, did you guys even test this thing against transmission? She said, no, we were moving at the speed of science. You guys remember that? So remember, they talked about how it'll stop transmission. They were so adamant about it. Everybody's saying it. And then later on, way down the road, and I should have pulled that clip up. Maybe I'll find it if we have time. Later on down the road, they admit they never even tested. They never tested for transmission. You guys, like, that's just try to grasp the level of that lie. They made everybody take this thing and they framed it as if you take it, it's gonna stop with you. You're protecting the people around you. They got so many people to believe that. And then after everybody was tricked into it, things are finally starting to die down. Things are opening back up. The lady from Pfizer gets questioned, hey, did you even test to see if it stops transmission? And she just admits it and says no. Everyone said that it stopped transmission. They didn't even test for it. Okay, so again, at what point is a lie big enough for you to end the relationship? Or at the very least, stop listening to what they say is true, because that is a major lie. And when you catch somebody in a major lie, you should no longer listen to that person. Period. They're all freaking liars, and we need to stop listening to them. Well, not us. We have stopped listening to them. But if any of you guys are watching, and you might be looking at this with an open mind right now, you really have to acknowledge who lied to you, what they lied to you about, and ask yourself, should you be listening to them anymore? The answer is no, you should not. All right, let's go over to the poll lady on Twitter. Got another little montage for you. Hoping I can get through all of these in the amount of time that I have left. All right, let's go over to the poll lady.
During 2021, we should be able to manufacture a lot of vaccines, and that vaccine key goal is to stop the transmission, to get the immunity levels up so that you get almost no infection going on whatsoever. Everyone who takes the vaccine is not just protecting themselves, but reducing their transmission to other people and allowing society to get back to normal.
We can kind of almost see the end. We're vaccinating so very fast. Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick.
Now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else. It cannot use a vaccinated person as a host to go get more people. That means the vaccines will get us to the end of this.
Essentially, vaccines block you from getting and giving the virus.
Fully vaccinated people are at a very, very low risk of getting COVID-19. Therefore, if you've been fully vaccinated, you no longer need to wear a mask.
When people are vaccinated, they can feel safe that they are not going to get infected. We have all the vaccines we need. We just need our people to take it. A, for their own protection, for the protection of their family, but also to break the chain of transmission. You want to be a dead end to the virus. So when the virus gets to you, you stop it. You don't allow it to use you as the stepping stone to the next person. I think given the country as a whole, the fact that we have now about 50% of adults fully vaccinated and about 62% of adults having received at least one dose, as a nation, I feel fairly certain you're not going to see the kind of surges we've seen in the past.
If you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized, you're not going to be in an ICU unit, and you're not going to die. You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Lies, 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 yeah. Lies, 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 yeah. Lies, 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 tell me sweet little lies. They lied to us, guys. They absolutely lied to us. And there's still people listening to them. There's still people listening to them. Oh, I already played that one. I think I already played that one. This one I played. Oh, no, I didn't. All right, let's go over to Raymond on Twitter now. I'm going to try to get through all these clips. I'm trying to rush here. Yeah, I think I got 15 more minutes. I should. Let's go over to Raymond here on Twitter. I believe... I can't even remember what this clip is. I'll just react.
Mandating vaccines like this, like they're doing in France, to enable them to open up is a very sensible approach. The federal government is paying compensation to hundreds of Australians who have vaccine injuries from the COVID jab. If you're a customer going into a store, you want to know that the people working there are vaccinated. Some of the COVID injuries include life-altering heart inflammation. If you're in a restaurant, you want to know that the people sitting alongside you, breathing in the same air as you, have also been vaccinated, damaged capillaries and autoimmune disorders. And I hope my company, News Corp, mandates vaccines for employees. There are also thousands who've applied for compensation and are waiting to hear back. Joining me now to discuss is former Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Nick Coatsworth. Nick, great to see you.
You know, I suspect the majority of Australians will get vaccinated, and there will be a strong public view that those who choose not to get vaccinated need to, there needs to be some sort of incentive stick, perhaps, through the current programs, including No Jab, No Pay.
And we need to crack on and get those claims assessed. There's no reason in 2023 that we shouldn't have that all done.
Australia, New Zealand, and Canada went to a whole new level of authoritarianism. I think Australia might have been the worst, but New Zealand was really bad too. That Jacinda Ardern chick, she was absolutely out of her mind. But Australia straight had COVID camps. They had COVID camps. And just listen to the way these people are talking. The authoritarianism that came out of Australia blew my freaking mind during COVID.
Yeah, and there are thousands who say that they are waiting to hear whether their request for compensation has been approved. Mandating vaccines is a very sensible approach.
It's becoming harder to convince a pandemic-weary public to roll up yet again. Health experts insist the fourth jab will save lives, and there's plenty of vaccine available at doctors, pharmacies and hubs.
All I did was go and take a vaccine.
Now Chris Nemeth is fighting for justice.
I couldn't walk, I couldn't work.
The once healthy 49-year-old became wheelchair-bound after developing a chronic neurological disorder called CIDP. He says the symptoms began 2 weeks after having his first AstraZeneca vaccination. As for which brand is best,
whichever vaccine you can get hold of, that is the vaccine to get.
They included headaches, tingling fingers, facial palsy.
So the vaccine injuries could be like categorized into like 3 different categories too. You got the people that were super pro-vaccine and took it. Then you got the people that were sort of like whatever about it, were sort of neutral about it. They're like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll take it to protect the people around them, right? Those are that's they probably wouldn't have took it, but they want to protect the people around them. So then there's that. Then there's the people that absolutely didn't want to take it, but were coerced into taking it for whatever reason, work or whatever reason. There's like those 3 different groups. So I wonder how many people of the other 2 groups that didn't want to take it and thought they were protecting people around them, so didn't have informed consent. How many of those 2 groups ended up getting a vaccine injury? They were coerced or tricked into taking this vaccine, and it gave them an injury. I wonder how many of those people that's the case. The people that are like super pro-vax and the ones that like got a vaccine injury and they're like, but I would do it again. Well, it's like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I can't even talk with you. I don't know I don't know where to go from there. Like, I can't work with that. I don't understand how people can be so obtuse. All right, let's go over to Andy No. There's another little video montage of remember too, when the idea of the vaccine first came out, remember who the anti-vaxxers were. The anti-vaxxers were the Dems. The anti-vaxxers were the liberals in the beginning. Remember this. Like, they flip-flopped on absolutely everything. So let's go over to, I can't remember who it is. Oh, Andy No. Sorry. Yeah, let's go over to Andy No here on Twitter and watch a montage of all the liberals talking about how dangerous vaccines are and how this vaccine's rushed and nobody should take it.
I think it's going to be a very skeptical American public about taking the vaccine, and they should be.
We can't trust the president and take his word and take a vaccine that might cause harm to us.
If and when the vaccine comes, and it's not likely to go through all the tests that needs to be and the trials that are needed to be done.
Let's just say there's a vaccine that is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it?
Well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us.
When we finally do, God willing, get a vaccine, who's going to take the shot? Who's going to take the shot?
We will need to have access to the vaccine results so we can make our independent assessment to make sure that Donald Trump's fingerprints are not on it.
You can be the first one to say, sign me up. They now say it's okay. Is the vaccine safe? Frankly, I'm not going to trust the federal government's opinion. And I wouldn't recommend to New Yorkers based on the federal government's opinion. And the question of whether it's real when it's there, that requires enormous transparency.
Would you trust that vaccine?
There's very little that we can trust that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth.
We cannot take for granted this process will be free of political influence.
I don't trust the president, and I don't trust the FDA. If Donald Trump can't give answers and the administration can't give answers to these three questions, the American people should not have confidence. You're going to say to the American people now, here's a vaccine, it was new, it was done quickly, but trust this federal administration and their health administration that it's safe?
I will say that I would not trust Donald Trump.
How confident are you in the approval process of the FDA right now?
How confident am I? I'm not that confident.
Yes, I would be hesitant, but I'm going to ask a lot of questions.
You're going to need someone other than this FDA and this CDC saying it's safe. You've got to make all of it available to other experts across the nation so they can look and see. So there's consensus, this is a safe vaccine.
What I'm worried about is that there's some sort of October surprise and that there is a pressure put on the decision makers here to announce the vaccine in October of 2020.
We're going to put together our own group of doctors and medical experts to review the vaccine and the efficacy and the protocol. And if they say it's safe, then I'll go to the people of New York and I will say it's safe.
But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
All right, so remember, this thing was politicized from the beginning, from the absolute get-go. And everybody got their marching orders, and everybody got on the same page. Remember the first week of this, people like Gavin Newsom was like giving Donald Trump compliments. For the first week of the lockdowns, people were actually trying to work together. When the boats got parked off the both coasts of the United States, and it seemed like everybody's working together. For a moment, everybody's thinking we might have this nice come together healing moment for the country. And then the narrative got put out, and it was shown that no, that's not what COVID is designed to do. It's designed to do the exact opposite. It's designed to rip our country apart. All right, so that's that clip. See if I can get through all of these. I think I can get through all of them tonight. All right, so we're going to go over to Kevin Kiley really quick, who just voted against censoring Adam Schiff, removing him from office essentially, and fining him $16 million. He was one of 5 Californians that voted against this, and also Massey voted against this. So I was very frustrated, but I've always liked Kiley. And yeah, we're going to go to a video of him just grilling the HHS secretary. And this guy's absolute piece of work. This guy is such garbage. Becerra, I can't remember his last name. Edward? Can't remember his first name. Okay, let's go over to Justin Hart on Twitter and watch Kevin Kiley drill this dude. Whoa, grill, not drill. Or no, we don't do that here. We're not gonna watch anybody drill anybody. Sorry about that. Grill with a G. So here's Kevin Kiley.
Mr. Secretary, did forcing 2-year-olds to wear masks save lives?
Do what now?
Did forcing 2-year-olds to wear masks save lives?
Making sure people wore masks when it was appropriate was essential to make sure that we were able to get out of this pandemic.
Sure, but that wasn't my question. Could you answer the question that I asked?
Which is?
Did forcing 2-year-olds to wear masks save lives?
And who did the forcing?
Well, your department, or the Head Start, which is under your department, had a mask mandate until late last year for 2-year-olds and above, even outdoors. So can you point to any public health benefit of that policy?
Right. We never forced anyone to do anything because we don't have the jurisdiction or authority to do that. What we did was provide guidance on what would be
Mr. Secretary, did Head Start have a mask mandate?
We provide a mask mandate, a requirement for jurisdictions that wish to receive money to provide particular services.
So Head Start did have a mask mandate for kids, yes?
We had a mask mandate for for agencies that wish to get federal dollars.
So that's a yes. So can you point to any benefit,
That's not a yes to
any
your
public
question.
health benefit from that policy, whether it was...
So it takes them a very long time to get to. Yes, we withheld federal funding from agencies that we were allowed to withhold funding to that did not comply with our mask mandate for kids 2 years old and above. We withheld federal funding from them. That's what he ultimately got to there.
recommended or enforced or forced of requiring young children to wear masks.
Did families benefit from the policy of using all protection, all precautions to avoid?
No, I'm not asking you to
contracting COVID?
rephrase my
Yes.
question as some abstract question that you'd rather answer. I'm asking that you, as the person who's the Secretary of Health and Human Services, right now, can you point to any evidence that there was a public health benefit to forcing young children to wear masks?
Well, the fact that today we are not losing lives the way we lost them when we first got into this pandemic.
And you think that's
is a
because we
clear
forced
sign.
2-year-olds to wear masks?
That's your interpretation. What I'm saying to you is that using good policies that give us the precautions to keep.
These people are narcissists.
Our families from contracting COVID are helping save
I want to
lives.
quote to you from an article from NPR in January of 2022. It says the United States is an outlier in recommending masks from the age of 2 years old. The World Health Organization does not recommend masks for children under age 5, while the European equivalent of the CDC doesn't recommend them for children under age 12. In retrospect, was it a mistake for the United States to defy the international norm on child masking?
The U.S. has been working closely with our international partners, and we have done more than any other country to try
But that's
to help
not what I
our-
asked you.
our
I asked
country-
you, was it
our
a
partner
mistake
countries.
to defy the international norm on the issue of child masking?
We continue to use all the best practices when it comes to making sure people take the precautions.
Is
they
there a
need
reason
to
you're
be
not
safe.
answering my question, Mr. Secretary?
I'm answering the question the best I can because you keep phrasing questions that are already geared to get a particular answer.
Mr. Secretary.
I don't even have anything to say to that. They're just, you don't engage them further. You cut them off from your life. They're liars. They're just straight up freaking liars. All right, let's listen to this guy from the UN. And I'm not even going to read the tweet of this person, but let's go over to Pelham on Twitter and watch this video really quick, because the way they talk about it in other countries in terms of censoring disinformation and all that junk, it's scary, the sort of language they use. Yeah, okay. Let's go to Pelham on Twitter. This guy's from the UN. I don't know who this is.
Digital platforms are being misused to subvert science and spread disinformation and hate to billions of people. This clear and present global threat demands clear and coordinated global action. Our policy brief on information integrity on digital platforms puts forward a framework for a concerned international response. Digital platforms are being misused.
I hate the way these people talk. They want to control every last word. Like Twitter and, Joe Rogan's show are like the last bastion right now. All right. So that was like essentially all the lies I wanted to show you guys. And I wanted to illustrate that, all the people on the left talking about how, the debate me bro stuff and just chalking it up to them everybody being conspiracy theorists and all that. Well, look at all the stuff that they lied about. Look at all the stuff they've been proven wrong about. Yeah, people are asking questions. I don't know. Why would you not want to hear what people are saying unless you're trying to keep people from hearing certain ideas? So, well, that's the stuff that we know they lied to us about. I tried to not be too conspiratorial on this episode, but now I will get to the conspiracy part of it. This is what I think is going on, essentially. This is the last montage that I'll show you. And this is, what a ton of us think is going on. So we'll do a quick, this is like just a little 1 minute and 15-second montage, I think. So let's go over to Real Scary on Twitter. Let's see. This is the last clip I got of the night. All right. Real Scary on Twitter. Let's share this one. So this is essentially what I think is going on, folks.
Virus imported into America. Talk about it nonstop. Start with a virus imported into America. Talk about it nonstop. Call some governors. Not them. Not them. That's your guys. Put patients into nursing homes. Kill thousands. Blame the president. Keep blaming. Blame some more. Lock down small business. Kill the economy. Push mail-in voting. Stoke a race war. Call for riots. Pick a candidate. No, not her. Yeah, that's more like it. Lock him in his basement. Shield him from the press. Don't cover this. Don't cover this. Don't cover this. Keep doing that. Ignore the economic recovery. Downplay the world peace. Pump the polls. Pump, pump. Don't stop pumping. Install your software in swing states. That was fast. Take control of polling stations. Call off the election when you're losing. Kick everyone out. Pull out all the extra ballots. Get the software to do its thing. Get the media to say it's over. Call the big tech guys. Ban anyone who notices. Act like the whole thing never happened. Stealing the most powerful republic in the world. It's that easy.
Yeah, it was a coup. We've lived through a coup. That's my conspiracy theory. But it's more than that. It wasn't just a coup for the presidency. I genuinely believe they are trying to collapse everything. A lot of other people believe that too, including the dollar, the economy, everything. It's all by design. So that is the conspiracy theory that many of us have. So I'll kind of leave it there, I think. Yeah, that is what I think's going on. No, I can't prove that. But yeah, there's some shenanigans. Some very powerful people pulling the strings. But yeah, there's my tinfoil hat for you guys. All right, that's really all I got for tonight. Yeah, again, as you guys know, I'm trying to survive. This is the only income I got coming in from you guys. I really appreciate all your support. Give, Send, Go is up on the screen. If you enjoy the show and you would like to support and keep a roof over my head, I greatly appreciate it because, well, finding work isn't seeming to get any better right now. I'm hoping within the next 6 weeks I can get a job call at the union. Hoping in the next week I can. But yep, that's what I got for you guys for tonight. But you know how we do it. before we leave, we have to read a joke from the greatest book ever written, The Truth About Chuck Norris. Let's see what we got here. What do we got tonight, folks? All right. Okay, here we go. You guys ready for the Chuck Norris joke of the evening? A blind man once stepped on Chuck Norris's shoe. Chuck said, "Don't you know who I am? I'm Chuck Norris." The mere mention of his name cured the man's blindness. Sadly, the first, last, and only thing this man ever saw was a fatal roundhouse kick delivered by Chuck Norris. It's unfortunate. And on that note, folks, stay CaliBased.